Tales from the Vets with more creatures great and small in an hour on BBC Two after we join Kate and Ben at Longleat.
Welcome to a brand new series of Animal Park. I'm Kate Humble.
And I'm Ben Fogle, and it's a momentous year here at Longleat as the Safari Park is celebrating its 40th anniversary.
We'll be getting close up, not just to the giraffes, but to the 40 other species of animal who live here.
Telling stories from all parts of the estate, both on land and on water.
And of course, we'll be meeting Lord Bath and exploring his magnificent house and its extraordinary contents.
Here's what's coming up on today's programme.
A life and death drama when things go very wrong for Imogen the pregnant giraffe.
If the giraffe survived, it would be a miracle.
There's monkey mischief afoot after we hide their breakfast.
That's brilliant, that one sliding down the pole. They are just fantastic to watch, aren't they? And the vet may soon have to face a difficult decision about Babs, the elderly rhino.
Well, Babs is looking her age, actually. She's not looking great at all.
But first, we're going up to lion country, where there's been a dramatic development.
Last year, new blood arrived at Longleat, Kabir, the Barbary lion. He was brought from Port Lympne Wild Animal Park in Kent to try to establish a new pride. The hope was that this would, in time, become a real family with cubs to raise. Kabir's intended mates were a couple of young sisters, Luna and Yendi. They settled down straight away, and it seemed to be a match made in heaven. In fact, encouraging behaviour was soon spotted. But would it lead to anything? We just had to wait and see. Now, keeper Brian Kent has some wonderful news.
We got a lion cub born, so it's really exciting, because there's a new lion here, and he's been here, 7 months, so he's produced some goods.
The new cub is a little girl. She's Yendi's first baby, and that's a worry, because sometimes new lion mothers don't seem to know how to look after their young. But so far, Yendi has been doing all the right things.
Basically, just caring for us and licking her, making sure she's clean. Cub's now 7 weeks old, so she's still on milk and also starting to eat food as well. So she's doing well. And hopefully her sister, who's on the other side, she's due as well for some cubs. I thought she was going to have them last week, but no such luck. So it's just a matter of waiting at the moment.
While her sister Yendi had 1 cub, Luna is looking large. They think she may be carrying more. Lions usually have between 2 and 4 at a time. But lions are secretive and only have their cubs when they're alone, usually the middle of the night. It's a rare event that's almost never been seen, so we've called in Andy Milk. He's a specialist cameraman who's had a lot of experience finding ways to film the unfilmable. We're hoping he'll help us to witness the miracle of birth for the very first time.
Well, I've just fitted the brackets up and got all that ready. Just now doing the final connection. And hopefully it's in the right place. We're not going to be obscured by the wire on the cage. What we've done is we've installed everything outside, and there's actually nothing in the cage at all, so the lion can't get to it, can't touch anything. And it's all quite safe.
The spy camera works like a CCTV system, so it won't disturb Luna at all. And it can get pictures in complete darkness by using infrared lamps.
Infrared is just basically light of a different wavelength to what the human eye can respond to. I don't think a lion will see it, although they're not actually that concerned about light at all, so it wouldn't matter. But if we were to come in at night, the picture on here would be fine, but we wouldn't be able to see anything in the cage itself.
The system can record continuously for up to 10 hours, so as night approaches, it's turned on. We'll be back later to find out if our spy camera really can capture these precious moments, the very first minutes of life.
The Lion House isn't the only place that's been blessed with new arrivals. There are a number of others elsewhere at Longleat. But not all of them have been born here. Some have come from other parks and zoos. I'm here in Pets Corner with Head of Section Darren Beasley, who's set me a task to try and find his latest addition to the area. Darren, how on earth am I supposed to find it?
Well, I'm going to give you a clue. We're heading in the right direction, and it's a freezing cold day today, and this animal likes it warm.
OK.
So
presumably it's somewhere around here.
It's not as easy as that, though. There's a lovely warm variable. There's basking spots of 95, nearly 100 degrees in there in places.
OK.
Can you see it?
No. Is it,
I'll tell you what, I'll come round and actually look through the door. Let's see if we can... Yeah, look at this. Can you see it? Feel the heat there.
I really can.
It's one of my favourite animals.
Am I still very cold over here?
Yeah, you got to sort of lean in, have a little look. It's not venomous, you're okay.
Say, it's obviously very small, isn't it? I can't see anything down.
Yeah, Ben, have a little look under here. They're in these rocks. Yeah. This animal loves, it's got a special defence, it wedges itself in rocks. Okay. So look in this sort of area here.
Shall I move
Just
the rocks
go
around?
very gently, Ben, yeah.
Very gently. Are you sure it doesn't bite or...
No, you're fine.
What do we have?
Can you see that?
Here?
Can you see?
Oh, look!
I promise I haven't hid that in there. That
it's
is
really there. That's where it was.
You can gently pick him up.
Why don't you do it, just so I don't...
Okay.
So presumably we have a tortoise here.
It is Poppadom.
Poppadom.
And he's a pancake tortoise. Look at that.
Really flat, much flatter than sort of the conventional tortoise, I suppose.
Basically, they've found a little niche in life, and that is to defend themselves. Obviously, tortoises have a dome, which they soak up the sunshine. These guys, they've developed to be very, very flat. And what they do is that one was doing then, as he was doing there, they wedge themselves in tiny little cracks and crevices in rocky outcrops in Africa.
Yes.
And then the big birds of prey and the jackals and things, they have great difficulty getting them out.
And they obviously have this amazing colour. If we just put him down next to... You can see he practically blends it. He could almost be a rock there already. So what would predate them out in the wild in Africa?
Most of the carnivores, I mean, I'm afraid they are pretty much bottom of the food chain. These guys will eat vegetation, they eat the grasses and things. But unlike our Mediterranean tortoises and tortoises we know with the big dome shells, these have got spaces in between their bones and their ligaments. So they're actually very gentle. They're very gentle, very soft to touch, if you like.
Can I have a quick hold there?
Feel that. And it's actually...
it does feel...
It's almost...
Especially under here, it's very soft, isn't it?
And then the best thing is, if they think there's a danger, they run really fast. Honestly, that is one of the fastest land tortoises anywhere in the world. I
never think of a tortoise going fast. We see how fast he might move now. Maybe to get away from us.
Look at him go. No, he's not actually sprinting. But when they find themselves a nice wedge or a nice crevice, they go head first in. And people used to think they'd swell their bodies to stop them being pulled out. But what they do, sorry, because he's racing off, he's trying to find a wedge. These legs are actually, they're like little anchors, and they'll turn them, twist them,
and
they literally catch.
To anchor them into the
spot. You can't pull them out. I'm hoping now, in here, he'll soon be joined by some more.
I was going to say, are you going to try and find him a girlfriend?
He is a little boy, so we're going to get him a couple of girlfriends. He's a lucky lad. And hopefully they'll learn as well that we give him lots of nooks and crannies to hide in, and he should just perform his natural behaviour. He's going straight back where we pulled him out.
I think we should leave him to it, shall we?
Brilliant. Yes,
Darren, thank you very much.
Thank you.
When babies arrive, it's not always good news, because sometimes the miracle of birth can go horribly wrong. Recently, the Giraffe House was the scene of dramatic events, a life and death struggle that no one who was there will ever forget. Imogen is 10 years old. Everyone was pleased for her because after several years of trying, she finally managed to carry a baby to term. With giraffes, that's 15 months. When it looked like her time had come, one of the first there was Senior Warden Bev Evans.
We were really excited when we came in and she was actually starting to go into labour, but obviously with that came the complications, so from like really exciting to really worrying in quite a short space of time, actually.
When Imogen's labour went on for over a day, it was clear to Andy Hayton, the keeper in charge of the giraffes, that something was wrong.
Sunday morning, the vet came out, looked at her, and the decision was kind of taken. We would probably have to pull the calf. The calf was obviously badly presented. We thought possibly it could have been a breech birth, or the head was tilted back so she just couldn't physically push out.
Pulling the calf out by hand would be the only way to help. But to do that, Imogen would have to be sedated with an anaesthetic. And that's always a risky business, as vet Duncan Williams knows.
Anaesthetic-wise, I think giraffes probably are the most dangerous, really. Literature reports are basically 1 in 3 anaesthetics with giraffes ended in fatalities.
But if they didn't do something, Imogen and the baby would certainly die. Nevertheless, Deputy Head Warden Ian Turner didn't like the odds.
The last thing you want to do is knock out a giraffe. And even worse is knock out a giraffe that's got a baby inside. So, you know, it was a last resort. We hadn't got any choice in the matter. We'd waited till the last minute and, you know, it was just fingers crossed from now on.
Now, a whole team of vets and staff has been urgently summoned to help. Nothing like this has ever been done here before, and Ian is concerned to record every detail. So he and his keepers are going to film whatever happens. The anaesthetic is administered using a syringe on the end of a pole. Andy's dreading what will happen next.
When they go, sometimes what they'll do is they'll force themselves into a corner and they'll try and prop themselves up, and then what can happen is they'll actually flip themselves straight back over where they just can't fight anymore and they're just out on their feet almost and they just collapse. The big worry for us is if she goes over straight backwards, she could break her spine. The box is all lined out with large bales of hay to soften it as much as we can do.
The straw on the floor has also been piled up to cushion the impact. The next minutes will be critical, and we'll be back very soon to find out if Imogen and her baby survive.
Longleat is home to a troop of over 80 rhesus macaque monkeys. The species is found all across Asia, from the tropics right up to the chilly foothills of the Himalayas. So they're quite happy to live outside in Wiltshire all year round, just as long as they've got something to keep them occupied and plenty to eat.
I'm up at Monkey Jungle with keeper Kevin Nibbs, and we're trying a bit of an experiment, I gather, this morning, Kev.
Absolutely, yeah. We've cut this one with the dry food.
Yeah, now, I was looking at this because don't you usually feed them fruit and vegetables and things?
Yeah, they get the fruit and veg in the afternoons.
Right.
We feed this in the mornings, which is like, we've got primate pellets here.
Okay.
It's pretty much just like Weetabix usually that we have in the mornings.
Okay.
And it gets them going for the rest of the day.
And is it full of sort of the right kind of vitamins and things that they need?
Yeah, absolutely. So these primate pellets are specially made for primates, so they're perfect.
Okay.
We've got little bits of whole maize there, which is, you know, it's just a good filler, something to go in their bellies, and dog biscuits as well, which is good for their teeth.
Wow, OK. So what's the experiment?
Well, the plan is, we've noticed a lot of birds around sort of this time of year, and they tend to come down and steal all the monkeys' food. So we're feeding twice as much food as what we need to.
Right.
Now, this winter has been particularly cold, so we've moved the buffalo out of the jungle, where they need a bit more shelter.
Yeah.
We've got a nice big spare shelter here
So
now.
this is where the buffalo usually hang out when they want shelter?
Exactly, yeah. So what we've done, we've put lots of straw in here, and what we want to do is put the food in the straw, in the bedding, kick some fresh straw over the top, and then let the monkeys come in.
Oh, right, so they can
themselves.
forage for it.
Absolutely.
Brilliant
Perfect natural
idea.
behaviour.
So shall I just sort of, put handfuls out?
Just throw it anywhere you want in here.
Around in the straw? All right, like this?
Yep, that's it. And we'll just come over afterwards and kick some fresh straw over the top so it's hidden.
OK. So we can literally, I mean, I suppose hiding it quite well is better for the monkeys, makes them work harder for it.
Exactly. It's very good enrichment for them, and it's like a natural behaviour. In the wild, they'd forage through leaf mould and leaf litter, looking for bugs and bits of fruit and veg. And this is just recreating that, really.
Okay. Lucky monkeys. And obviously maybe help keep them warm as well.
Absolutely, yeah. They can have a good play in the straw.
Right. Well, we're nearly done here. We'll get out of the way. Should kick that over there like that.
Yeah.
And join us later to see if the monkeys like their new experiment.
Back in the giraffe house, vet Duncan Williams and the team have just given Imogen an injection of anaesthetic. The trouble is, with giraffes, the anaesthetic itself can be the most dangerous thing.
I think the big problem is, you know, the massive animal. When they fall down, you've got the risk of regurgitation of stomach contents, the rumen contents can go up the esophagus and get swallowed into the lungs.
So, as quickly as possible, an air tube needed to be inserted all the way down that long throat to the top of the lungs.
That's the most important thing to do. That didn't quite go according to plan. Literally, just as we were getting the tube down, she regurgitated, but luckily the tube was just down in time.
One of the 4 vets on the team is an anaesthetist from Bristol University's veterinary school, Pamela Morrison. She's responsible for the air tube and life support.
They're so big. I'm used to anaesthetising large animals, but they're very long and with long legs, long necks, and you know on the back of your mind all the time that it is such a risky procedure.
With Imogen anaesthetised, Duncan can start his examination. He needs to find out what state the calf is in and how it's lying, just by feel. The ropes are essential for everyone's safety, and it takes a lot of hands to hold them secure. Ian's called in staff from all over the safari park to help.
You know, there's 30-odd people round, and if you draft kicks, somebody's going to end up either seriously injured or even worse. I mean, if they kicked a lion, for instance, it'd be dead. I mean, I've actually been trampled on by a giraffe, and it's not really pleasant. And they've got really big hoofs. You know, you've got that big swing from a distance. And they don't know they're doing it, so it's not something they're doing on purpose. But you imagine a leg going like that back, and you're just in the wrong place, it sends you flying. Not recommended.
Duncan's internal examination has revealed some sad news. The calf inside is already dead. It may have been dead for some time. Senior Warden Bev Evans had been looking forward to having a new baby in the giraffe house.
It was quite sad to lose the calf. The vets and everybody couldn't do anything about that. You kind of, you know, we couldn't have done anything, so there's no point worrying too much about that. But yeah, it's such a shame that we lost him as a boy.
Now all their efforts are concentrated just on trying to save Imogen. They have to get the dead calf out, but there's been a complication.
Unfortunately, the drug that we gave her to relax the uterus has actually made her body think that she stopped being in labour. So what she's actually closing her cervix down. So a cervix that's capable of holding in a baby giraffe is obviously quite a strong muscle. So that's closed down. And what we're trying to do is pull something this big out of something that big, which just isn't happening. I mean, you can see the amount of effort that the guys are putting in trying to pull the calf.
There was no way that it was going to come out just simply because everything had closed down again. I mean, we did quite a major pull on it, and it just wasn't shifting, unfortunately.
Duncan and the team must come up with a new plan, and fast, because now Imogen's life is balanced on a knife edge.
I'm back up at Monkey Jungle with keeper Kevin Nibbs. Earlier, we spread food out, hidden in the straw in that shelter. The monkeys are just starting to come around, Kev. They've obviously... do you think they knew what we were up to? Do they smell it? How do you think they get the hint that there's food around?
They're very curious as a species anyway, so anything we do, they're always there straight away. As soon as they find food, they're going to start making little noises to each other, communicating that they found some food, and that'll make the rest come in.
So all the rest of the troop, because there are monkeys that sort of scattered around in the dead wood up there, and they are beginning to head over this way.
Yeah,
so
they are coming.
They pick up these signals. Oh, there's food over here. That's what happens?
Absolutely. This is great. This is perfect natural behaviour. And this big guy at the front here, that's Timmy. He's our dominant male, so he's there straight away.
Right.
As he would be in the wild.
Now, obviously, that food, we buried it quite well, and the little maize pellets, for example, are tiny. How are they finding it? Are they using smell or sight or everything?
Mostly it'll be sight.
Right.
They'll dig through it with their hands. If they see something they think they can eat, they'll put it straight into the mouth like a little child would. Give it a bite, and if they can eat it, great. If they can't, they'll just throw it away and off they go again. They sniff things quite well as well. They've got a very good sense of smell. And what they do now, they're just going to fill up their cheek pouches, stuff them as much as they can. They get bigger cheeks on them, and off they go.
Well, they're all coming in now, aren't they? It's amazing to see them. And as you say, I mean, this is a new way of feeding them, but it looks entirely natural to them.
Absolutely, and the best thing is there's no birds stealing the food, so they get it all to themselves.
It's brilliant, that one sliding down the pole. They are just fantastic to watch, aren't they? They've blown it. I was going to say, I'm quite surprised how calm they all are. There's no sort of fighting. Presumably that's because there's enough to go round. Yeah, definitely, yeah. And they all know their role as well. Occasionally you get a very brave little one coming in trying to steal some food, and that's not acceptable really in monkey society, and they get told very quickly it's not acceptable. But it is amazing. I mean, if you just saw that scene, it would be very difficult to tell which one is dominant. I mean, you've got some very small ones in there, and it seems to be that they've got it quite well worked out, the society quite well worked out. Exactly, yeah. Yeah, the males are the big dominant ones, and then the females come after that. And normally that the females sort of rule it, really. They're very clever. Oh, they make sure that nothing happens, and the males just kind of lay back and do their bit. Now, when you get a sort of squeak like that, is that a sort of warning? Just be careful. Oh, look. This is Timmy at the front here. No, this one's called Maggie. Oh, this is a female. And she's always on the lookout for people, and she always likes to make faces at people. This is actually a threat. So she's actually pulling a face at our cameraman at this moment? Yeah, because we're looking at her, she doesn't like it, and she's threatening us, really, to sort of stay away from the food. I mean, do you think now this might be something you repeat? Do you think this has been a successful experiment? Definitely, yep. I'd like to do this every day if we can. Yeah. Every morning we'll do this until they get bored of it. And if they do get bored of it, we'll have to think something else. Come up with another idea. Definitely. Well, Kev, thank you very, very much. It's just a fantastic sight. Monkeys everywhere.
With Imogen's baby not only dead, but also hopelessly stuck, there's only one way left to try to save her life. Despite the fact that, as senior keeper Andy Hayton knows, there's little chance of success.
We're going to attempt a caesarean just to give her a go. You know, we can't just decide we're going to put her down and quit here. You know, we've got to, let's say, even if it doesn't come out the right decision or the right outcome that we want, we've got to at least try it. So we're going to attempt a caesarean now and see how we go.
This will be the first caesarean that's ever been performed on a giraffe at Longleat. Duncan Williams is the vet in charge of the team.
We do caesareans in cattle all the time, and the actual operation itself is very much similar to doing it in a cow. But, I mean, it is different. She was lying down, cows are normally standing up, and we don't normally have quite so many people helping. I've never done anything like that in a giraffe at all. No.
Imogen has now been under anaesthetic for over 2 hours. For a giraffe, that's a dangerously long time. It's up to Pam Morrison, the veterinary anaesthetist, to monitor her condition.
We were monitoring her blood pressure, making sure that that was within normal range, not too high, not too low. Also trying to make sure that she's adequately anaesthetised so that she is not either very, very deeply anaesthetised, which is going to cause problems for her organs and reduce the amount of blood getting to them, or very, very lightly anaesthetised and liable to move or be aware of what's going on.
Meanwhile, the other 3 vets are desperately trying to get the dead calf out. Even Deputy Head Warden Ian Turner is losing hope.
She'd never seen a caesarean on a giraffe. And literally, if the giraffe survived, it would be a miracle.
Here it comes. Yeah, towards me. Go on. You should come down. Right, Paul, that's fine. That's fine, you can help them.
You've just took a baby giraffe out of her stomach, which is, as you know, is a 6-foot-odd baby. So that's removed. So the actual wound, you know, the stitches, we're talking like that sort of size stitching. And she's got 2 lots of internal stitching, plus the external stitching. She's now been under for 4 hours plus, which is obviously, you know, you want to keep it to the minimum time. And she's now had all this operation going on, you know, it's going through her. You know, it's going to be touch and go whether she actually survives this operation anyhow. But to go through that time and all this, you know, she's been prodded around, poked, stitches here and the rigmarole that's gone on, it's, you know, it's quite a traumatic time for her.
The stitches need to be made very strong, because giraffes must always stand up, even when they've got such a massive wound. The moment of truth will come when the job is finished and they try to revive Imogen. The question is, will she ever wake up again? I'm down in Pets Corner with keeper Bev Allen and two very sweet little guinea pigs. They're obviously young. How old are they?
They're about 9 weeks old now. Two females.
Okay.
And this is Tia, and that's Maria.
I like those names. Do guinea pigs of this age take a lot of care?
They do. You've got to make sure that you feed them the correct diet, lots of hay in their diet, also a dry mix as well, and lots of fruit we give ours as well.
And they're obviously very popular pets with children. Would you recommend them?
For younger children, I recommend guinea pigs because they're good fun, and also long-haired. You've got to make sure you groom them quite often as well.
Do you actually have to run a brush, a comb through their hair?
We do, yeah, and haircuts as well now and then.
Wow. They are very sweet, aren't they?
They are.
And how long would they live for?
About 4 to 5 years average.
Okay. Well, Bev, thank you very much. And don't go away, because here's what's still to come on today's programme.
We'll find out whether or not Imogen survives.
Can the meerkats work out how to make an omelette?
And then up in the Great House, Ben and I take on a challenge to see if we can become Longleat guides in just one day.
I would like to welcome you into the breakfast room. Please come along, everyone.
But now we're going back to the Lion House, where we've set up a spy camera to try to capture a secret and rarely seen event, the moment when a lioness gives birth. But Luna, the lioness in question, is keeping everyone on tenterhooks.
Little no cubs.
Keeper Brian Kent has been expecting to find new cubs every morning for the last week.
She does look very big now, so, she's going to have them soon. It's just a matter of waiting.
4 days later, in the dead of night, it finally happened. Our spy camera was able to get this unique footage. 2 cubs are out, and here's the third. Immediately, Luna starts to clean the baby. In all the years they've been looking after the lions, this is the first time Brian Kent and Bob Trollope have ever witnessed these precious moments.
Time limit was getting on a bit. It was every time we could say, no, it'll be next week. Never happened. Nature takes its course and eventually out they come, so it was great. It's good to see them. Well, and to see what I've seen on here now, which is nice. All the years I worked here, not to be able to see something that close up. It's great.
It's good detail as well, isn't it?
Now, in daylight, the camera can get better quality pictures of the cubs' first few hours. And it's revealing more natural behaviour that would normally be impossible to observe. For example, when Brian and Bob first went into the Lion House this morning, Luna was acting quite differently.
She was very protective of them. As soon as we walked in, you knew that she'd had them, because apart from the sort of noises they were making, she was up at the front of the cage trying to see us off. And I think when we went in, first of all, you couldn't quite see how many there was, because she was obviously out there trying to protect them. We didn't want to spend an awful lot of time in there.
Especially just to keep away. As long as you've checked them twice a day, you don't really need to stay there all day. There's just no need, because you can make things worse. It's just better to stay away, let her get on with it.
It's amazing to see, because quite often when we go in there and find the cubs there, they're either being cleaned or they've just been born. But to actually see them, how quick it is that they go to the nipple, and really quick it is between each cub.
How strong they are, aren't it?
Yeah, amazing.
You see them out around straight away. That's really great to see.
Luna's babies are very vulnerable. Each weighs little more than 1 kilo, and at this stage they're still blind. In the wild, only 1 in 5 cubs make it to adulthood, and even in captivity, the future of these little ones is far from certain.
You can lose cubs. Either mum may sit on them by accident. It can happen. So you just got to wait and hope things go well. You can't do nothing about it. That's how it goes, and hopefully, you should do fine. We'll see how it goes.
And of course, we'll be following developments in the Lion House closely. Later in the series, we'll be back to find out what happens to the newborn cubs.
As Kate saw earlier with the monkeys, the keepers all across Longleat are constantly trying to find ways to make life more interesting for the residents. It's called enrichment, and the idea is to encourage the animal's natural behaviour and to stimulate their senses. I'm down at Meerkat Mound with keeper Val Magruder, and we're about to feed them, but this isn't a normal feed, is that right, Val?
Yes, that's right. Because meerkats, they'll eat all sorts of things, especially in the wild. It'll be invertebrates a lot of the time. Maybe scorpions, they bite the sting off the tail, small snakes. But they also eat eggs. Okay. Now, we're having a bit of an experiment here.
Oh, very good. I like that.
Because we've got 2 unboiled eggs, and we've got 1 hard-boiled egg. So we're just going to have a little look, see which one they break into first, see if it does make a difference, or whether they like them all the same, really.
Okay, so now I've noticed that the...
yellow mongoose.
The mongoose house, exactly. Yeah. And they obviously all get along together.
Yes, they do. They get on very well. In the evening, when we give them the main feed, we actually do separate them for feeding. Just for safety purposes, really.
Right, where should we do this experiment then?
Right, if we put them a bit near a rock, because what they do, they'll sort of roll the eggs along and perhaps try and... Yes, you can.
So these are the two just normal, these are normal eggs. Where should I pop them, if you tell me?
Yeah, that's it, that's
over
fine.
Here?
Yeah.
And then this is that's the hard-boiled one. Should I pop it just over there, do you think? And hopefully we've got to try and attract them over.
I'll throw a few mealworms there.
Oh, is that's the way to a meerkat's house, is it?
Yes, that's right.
Some little worms.
Meerkats!
You've got the 3 meerkats here now, don't you?
Yes, we do. Yeah, we've got 1 male and 2 females. Right. So it would be really nice if we had the patch of tiny feet.
That would be great. And do you know, have you any idea which one is likely to come over for the eggs first?
It could actually be any of them.
Right. And presumably in the wild they would find the eggs from nesting birds or... That's
right, yes, any sort of ground nesting bird that they would go for, the right sort of size.
Oh, look, here we go.
There we go. Go on then, have a go.
Having a little feel of it. So that's the hard-boiled one.
Well, then have a dig at it. But they will dig around things. When it's sort of an instinct for them to dig around anyway, but they could dig around looking for a stone or perhaps just rolling it against something hard.
So this is proving that they still have some of their natural instincts.
Oh, yes, they do. They have.
Even though, because were these guys actually born in captivity?
Yes, they were, yes.
And yet they still know exactly, what they should try and do with an egg. They
would bury it, but he's trying to get into it.
I'm still perplexed.
Yeah.
But you think that they should actually crack it against the rocks?
They should do, yeah. But we do give them to them. And
look, we've got the mongoose was kind of creeping in there.
Here we go. They're coming to this one now.
And this is all part of your enrichment, is it? That you like to do here, just to keep them occupied.
Yes, it is. It is really good to sort of give them different things. Oh, he's got it.
Wow! Well, there we go.
Good, wasn't it?
We've just worked out the mongoose definitely knows how to do it.
Aren't they?
It's very clever, isn't it? How they knew how to just crack it, and they're obviously happy sharing the egg there together.
They are at the moment.
Could they at the moment? Is that because there's enough? Oh, look, so the meerkat, look, it's sort of, it's mine, get away.
Yeah. Actually, generally speaking, the mongoose will be more aggressive when they've got food than the meerkats.
Look, so we've got the other mongoose is coming up to try and work on the hard-boiled egg here. So this, in theory, should be easier to get into.
It should do. Also,
there we go. Well, there we go. I think we call that a thief.
I think so, thief in the night. Oh, this one, look.
And he's got into it there, so there we've got
the other
meerkat's got into it. So would you deem that a success, Val?
I think so. I think that was really good. Because both the unboiled ones, they got cracked and eaten. The boiled one, that got whipped away, didn't it? That was really good. They got into them, they broke them on the stone just like we thought they were going to, so it was great.
Thank you very much, Val. I think we have 3 rather contented meerkats there.
The emergency caesarean to try to save Imogen's life has taken 3.5 hours. Her calf was dead inside, and it took all the efforts of 4 vets and a whole team of keepers to get it out. Now the time has come to try to wake Imogen up, and the stress is starting to show.
It feels like we've been doing this for about a week. Yeah, it's been a long day. I mean, we've kind of been stood around. It's the vets and the anaesthetists that have done all the hard work. The caesarean was done. Unfortunately, dead baby, but we were pretty much sure of that. And surprisingly, for 2 days of the calf being dead, it started to decompose already. So the big worry is if the calf has decomposed so far that she's infected.
Once we'd finished all the operation, Duncan had stitched it all back up, he'd got all the stitches done, he cleaned the wound up, he'd give it all the antibiotics and stuff, and he'd give it Revive on. What we do is, Andy, Ryan A couple of others stayed in there, and we moved out with just Ryan and Andy in there and sit on its... What you do is you sit on its neck, you wait for it to come round, and then at the last minute, once it's up, you get off its neck and it sits up.
It's an anxious time for Pam, the veterinary anaesthetist.
To a certain extent, I think you're relieved that one part has gone well, but still nervous about the part that still has to go. It's not completely finished until she's upstanding and well. And for me, particularly, I find that period very nerve-wracking because we've got very little control of how she gets up, and she could easily injure herself.
Let's go.
They were expecting Imogen to at least try to stand up as soon as she came round. Something is wrong, because lying down is unnatural to a giraffe. It's dangerous to their health and can lead them to just give up and lose the will to live.
The longer the anaesthetic, the more likely you are to have some of the other problems associated with anaesthesia in large animals. For example, there's pressure on the muscles, which have been lying in an awkward position with 600 kilos of giraffe lying on top of certain areas.
It's one of these difficult sort of situations, is how much do you intervene? Do you let her do it herself? And you always worry that you don't do enough and something bad happens, you know, you're going to be blaming yourself.
But a few minutes later, Imogen finds the strength to sit up. And then finally, to try to stand.
The big step is she didn't die in the operation. The next big step is she got up, or woke up and got up, and if we can, we'll slowly get her eating again, and it is just tiny, tiny little steps all the way.
It's a miracle that Imogen has come this far, but after major surgery on the stable floor, infection is a very real danger.
If she makes it through tonight, tomorrow, and then days on after that, if she gets to 2 weeks, then we can kind of breathe out.
We'll return later to find out whether or not Imogen makes it through the hours and days ahead.
But now, up in Longleat House, Kate and I are about to face a test that will try us to the limits. Every year, 250,000 visitors enjoy a tour of the magnificent staterooms. And it's up to the house guides to make sure they go away both enlightened and enthralled.
If you worked in the court of Henry VIII, you didn't acquire just a few acres of land. By the time this gentleman died...
It's a challenging job, but then we like a challenge. Kate and I have come up into the great house here at Longleat with guide Sarah Bartlett and head guide Claire Mound to learn how to become a guide in just one day.
Now, Claire, how long have you been a guide at Longleat?
I've been here for 12 years.
OK, so we are going to try and absorb 12 years' worth of information in just a day.
Possibly.
OK, well, we're going to start in this room, is that right? You and I?
You and I are going to start here, and Ben and Sarah are going to go next door and try and absorb that room.
OK,
right.
We'll get going.
So if somebody wants to be a guide at Longleat, what's the process?
Well, you start with an interview, we see if we like each other, and then you come and you start training with other guides, and you gradually absorb information, lots of reference books, and lots of hands-on.
So, I mean, how many rooms are open to the public? How many rooms do you have to get to know intimately?
Well, you get to know, well, I think we usually say about a third of the house, about sort of 16, 17 rooms. Wow. There you are, that'll keep you going.
And I mean, looking at this room, they're just so packed full of things, and presumably the members of the public can ask you about anything.
They can ask you about anything, but you would probably start by just telling them that this is the lower dining room, the family dining room.
Right.
A little bit about their porcelain, the portraits, and, of course, the wonderful ceilings.
So we would get to the ceiling, as you say. I mean, it is staggering. You can't walk into this room without looking at it. So what sort of information would you give about this?
Well, Lord Bath's great-grandfather fell in love with Italy. He employs a London firm, John Dibley Crace, to put in very dramatic ceilings, and they're largely copied from the Ducal Palace in Venice.
Wow.
So they're put in the 1870s and the early 1880s.
Yeah.
So that changes the whole feel of the house. It ceases to really to be Elizabethan inside.
And becomes more
Italian.
So you said it's Lord Bath's great-grandfather, so which Marquis
He was the
that?
fourth Marquis.
Fourth Marquis, okay. There's going to be an awful lot to remember.
There's a
isn't
lot to
there?
learn, but one or two things in each room.
Okay.
And that'll see you through for quite a long way.
All right, well, I'm going to carry on spotting up. Go and see how Ben's getting on.
Well, while Kate learns about the lower dining room, I'm in the breakfast room with Sarah. Right, we've got the type of room, right? What are the sort of features in here that I need to learn about?
You need to learn about the table.
Okay.
That's the important feature. It was laid for the opening of the house on the 1st of April 1949.
So it's still the same. This is as it was laid on that date?
Correct.
And what's the significance of that?
That is the date that the house opened to the general public.
Okay.
That was because Lord Bath's grandfather, Thomas...
He's in the portrait above the fireplace, is he?
That's right. He had died in 1946, and the family had had to sell vast quantities of the estate to pay the death duties.
Okay. And the table is all original, is this? I mean, is that the original paper from the date? And
that's the original...
The eggshells are the same, do you think?
Probably. Highly probably.
Okay.
Yes.
What else in this room? I mean, the ceiling... The ceiling strikes me as amazing.
The ceiling is 24-carat gold leaf.
Is it really? I mean, there's so much to take in, isn't there? How long have you actually been guiding for?
I've been guiding for 4 years now.
Right. And did you used to take books home, homework, notes and things to study for the next day?
You did, yes. But as you went round the house, you sort of learnt things, and people asked you questions, which helps, because then you have to think what the answer is. And eventually you begin to learn it and know the answers.
Presumably they still catch you out every now and then, do they?
Every so often you get somebody who asks you something you don't know, yes.
Okay. Well, I think I have a lot to learn. So the ceiling, 24-carat gold, table 1949. 49. I really do have a lot to take in. Join us later when we'll be put through our paces.
There are 5 southern white rhino at Longleat, 3 youngsters and 2 veterans, Winston and Babs. Of them, Babs is the oldest. She recently turned 37, and for a rhino, that's a grand old age. Right from when she arrived back in 1993, Babs has always been a big character, loved for her even temper and friendly nature. So when 3 youngsters came from South Africa a couple of years ago, everyone hoped that Babs would take on the role of grandma to help them settle in. She didn't disappoint. But now the years are finally catching up with Babs. She's been suffering from arthritis and skin problems, and now Deputy Head Warden Ian Turner is quite worried about her.
Feeling old, aren't you, sweetheart? That's the trouble. And she's got tender bits by her on the skin, see. It's just where she's getting a bit senior citizen age is coming in, I'm afraid. Gets to us old, all of us. I mean, normally, all this sort of stuff you like to see she's finishing there, aren't you? And normally, as soon as you call her, she'll come over. And there's a couple of days where she's not even bothered to come over. And that's the signs that keepers look for, which the vet can't see. He can see if she's looking ill, signs of illness, but it's when she's not being a normal self. She's the friendly one.
But vet Duncan Williams has been called to meet keeper Adi Lanfear to see if anything can be done for Babs.
Babs, you going to come and say hello? Hey? But she's eating well, isn't she?
She's got a very good appetite. She's eating lovely, yeah.
Old age as well, isn't it? It's just...
Oh, there you go, darling.
She doesn't look very steady at all. She looks very weak. Very weak, yeah.
When she twists, she's certainly in the middle of the week. She was actually collapsing. She was actually bang. She was hitting the deck.
Well, Babs is looking her age, actually. She's not looking great at all. This time of year, you know, it's the middle of winter, and you can see her skin is just all crusty and scabby and dry. But that's true to all of them. They've all got sort of skin problems, I think, which tends to go away in the spring when they start wallowing again. We're doing everything we can. We're nursing her through it, aren't we? We're looking after her best we can. We're not, you know, we're making her life as comfortable as possible and supplement her, try and prevent the arthritis from becoming too serious and just keeping a close eye on her. I think her quality of life's okay. I mean, she's had a bit of a bad week or so, but her appetite's excellent still, so that's a pretty good indicator that, you know, she's not too seriously ill.
Come on, Babs. Come on.
White rhinos have been known to reach 40 years in captivity, but few live past their mid-30s. For now, everyone is doing all they can to relieve Bab's suffering.
He needs nursing through the winter. It's a difficult time for him. So it needs the extra care. So, yeah, we've got a soft spot for her. And she's a big character, yeah. And that's the painkiller. Take the edge off of things for her. Well, obviously she's got her hay, which you see her eating now. And it's high fibre nuts. And there's linseed and barley. We also give her some copper salts and some vitamin extracts and some supplements. There you go, darling.
But the hard truth is that Babs probably needs more than a spoonful of medicine if she's to survive the winter. If her quality of life deteriorates much more, the time will come when the vet and the keepers will have to face a difficult decision. Will it be kinder to keep her going or to put her to sleep?
I think my brain's going to explode. Ben and I have spent the entire day trying to learn how to be guides here at Longleat House. There is so much to remember, I can't tell you. But now is test time. I have a willing group. Please come in, and I shall tell you about the lower dining room. Now, I know that this looks like the most fabulously luxurious room, but actually, this was the day-to-day dining room. The family would have eaten dinner here every day. And just have a look at this china on the table. Every single one of these plates is unique. They're hand-painted. They were bought for when George III came to visit the house in 1789, and each one is absolutely unique. Probably not to put in a dishwasher, I wouldn't have thought. The first thing you notice in this room, if you look up, is the amazing ceiling. This ceiling was put in by the 4th Marquis, that's the present Lord Bath's grandfather. And he loved Italian, the Italian style. And so this ceiling is actually copied from the Ducal Palace in Venice.
So how do they clean it?
Painstakingly. You know your blusher brushes? That's what they do. They'll stand up on ladders and get in so that you can get in. It's so delicate. And obviously it's all gilt. And they will get in and brush it away literally with blusher brushes. So it's not something you want to do too often.
How often do they have to redo it, repaint it?
It's done roughly every 10 years or so, but because it's kept in very good condition and because it's cleaned, it's kept very well. So things do stay preserved and you know, in this sort of magnificent state.
Good job.
Now, if you want to go through into this room, and my colleague Ben will meet you in there.
What a spot. Follow me in here. Now, I would like to welcome you into the breakfast room. Please come along, everyone. Very impressive. Lots of paintings of various baths along the ceilings. All sorts, in fact. The table is laid still originally from the 1st of April, 1949, believe it or not. All totally original. The original newspaper, even the original egg that was left there at that time. And that was when the 4th Marquis, maybe the 5th, in the painting above the fireplace, passed away, and there was incredible death duties that had to be paid. So the house had to open to the public so that you lucky people could come and have a look around and see what went on in here. Very impressive ceiling.
So in terms of the painting on the ceiling, would that have been painted on the ground and then set into position on the ceiling?
It would have very likely have been painted and then put up there. Yes, yes. Absolutely, and there's a door, a little hidden door just below the painting. That was incorporated in the 1820s so that the servants could come along and lay the table and things. Any questions from anybody? Well, I hope you all enjoyed the room. Please join Sarah through this way. Thank you very much for coming, everybody. Thank you very much for coming. I think I did rather well.
Well done, Ben.
It's been a month now since Imogen underwent an emergency caesarean. The baby was already dead, and no one really thought that Mum had much chance either. But here she is, and she's doing fine.
we had hardly any infection to speak of. In fact, it was so little infection, it's not even really worth mentioning. Yeah, she's just fantastic. I think the kind of animal she is, she's very, very quiet, very laid back. I think that stood well in her stead because obviously the stress level from the pain and the darting and all the hassle was very low. Obviously she didn't know anything about the op because she was completely out, but stress will get them in a lot of other ways. That didn't affect her. Yeah, really, really pleased.
It's unlikely that Imogen will be allowed to get pregnant again. The risks are just too high. But with her steady nature, she still has an important role to play.
She's got a great future in the herd because she's going to be central to a lot of things. Unfortunately, the one thing she possibly isn't going to do is have calves of her own. But she's got 2 sisters here, so there are going to be offspring from that family, and she can just be everybody's dear old maiden aunt being a bit dotty in the corner, I suppose.
Hello, girls.
Imogen has been getting a lot of visits from all the staff that helped that day. It's an experience head warden Keith Harris won't forget in a hurry.
I've been involved with giraffe, well, for 30 years, ever since I've been here, but we've sedated them for, you know, foot trimming and lameness, that type of problem, but never cesarean. So to actually, you know, be successful as well is quite something. So, you know, we're quietly quite chuffed.
The operation, what she went through, 4.5 hours under anaesthetic, and then all that, fantastic. An absolute miracle, nature. How she can recover so well. Fantastic it is. Makes her extra special now, yeah. To have gone through all she's gone through. We thought we was going to lose her, really and truthfully. In the bottom of our hearts, even though we're going to, you've got to try these things, we thought she was going to die.
In the house, it's time to find out who's won the Guides Challenge, Ben or me. The judge is head guide Claire Mound, and I don't know what Ben's been up to, but I'm beginning to suspect a hint of bias.
Well, I think you did brilliantly, Ben. You got your people through. You didn't lose anybody, did you?
I hope not.
No one's still hidden under the
and
table.
you answered spontaneous questions that I think might have floored you, and you got them right.
Thank you.
Yes,
It's all
better.
sounding very good. What about Kate?
Kate did, well, you did all right too, didn't you? But you got the grandfathers muddled up a little bit, didn't you?
Yes, there are too many grandfathers in this family.
There were too many Thomases and Johns and things, but
it was great-grandfather, wasn't it?
It was a
And I said
great-grandfather,
grandfather.
and otherwise, no, you were getting there, but by a small whisker, I think that Ben got slightly better, and we'll give you a badge.
Oh.
It does mean we might ask you to do some work now.
Oh, really? Does that mean bigger groups as well?
Bigger groups, yes. I've got about 30 small children waiting for
I'm
you
going to
downstairs.
wear that with... What? And presumably, how many more rooms do I have to learn about?
Oh, about 10 more, yes, yeah. But,
Dear, I have my work cut out for me. Do you want the badge, Kate?
No. See you next year. Sadly, that's all we've got time for on today's programme. But here's what's coming up on the next Animal Park.
Up in Wolf Wood, the cubs born last year are getting big. We'll find out if they're now eating with the grown-ups.
Back with the lions, Mum goes ballistic when it's time to give the youngest cub her injections.
And down in Pet's Corner, we'll meet 2 new bouncing babies. The first otter cubs born at Longleat in over 30 years.
So don't miss the next Animal Park.
And from treating cows in the countryside to patching up our pets, the work of our vets, next on BBC 2 in more Creatures Great and Small.